It's nice to be among the fellow professionals, sisters and brothers, on a Friday in Bangalore. I think Friday being the weekend, always we have a casual approach. And it's nice to see people have gathered together to discuss on the way forward of the role of a CFO and the finance department. So I would like to attempt to do some framework on this, because nothing is conclusive. We start a certain process and we go on developing over a period and we see the result. So that is how we have been framed. And CFOs always have the two ends. They have to meet the pressure and handle the challenge, and also ensure that results are given. Compared to other professionals, the one we carry among us is to ensure what we do is right. In that perspective, over the years, I think, having seen the erstwhile systems and the current changes happening across, we can't be oblivious to the fact that the changes have to be accepted and we have to adapt. But at the same time, how best we can take this forward is the way we have to look ourselves. Today, if you see the number of changes happening across the systems, businesses, and the regulatory framework, it's quite dynamic. And the pandemic has taught us to make sure that we are agile as a finance function, and stand up to the requirement and deliver. I think this is something each of us has to pat our back. All the finance guys have stood up to the requirement in the pandemic, and most of the businesses have survived, and now they are getting stabilized. If the CFO role, in my view, is something without losing the ethics and control processes, and making sure the identity of the person is retained, that is, whoever in this position has to ensure that his identity is retained. That is a very tough one, in my view, because there will be pressures on either side to make sure that things are happening, but we are in the role to make sure that governance, compliance, and controls are in place. This is something very peculiar to our function. We need to stand up and deliver. At the same time, we need to be more, I will say, optimistic as well as adjustable to the requirement of the business. Each business has got its own challenges, their own challenges. The challenges in place have to be handled, and we are putting in place system and process to control. At the same time, we need to make sure the results are in place. Directionally, if you see now what is really happening with more digitization in the process, all the businesses are looking to invest in digitization. In my view, each business have to be looked differently. You can't generalize digitization in relation to one business to other business, because the peculiarity of the business changes, because the investment in each business differs. A digitization, I am in a print media, because we have to invest in digital media, it's a totally different ballgame. Because we need to ensure that we have the page views happening and we deliver the stories to the table of the subscriber. But it may not be so in other businesses. In our business, we need to ensure that the subscriber, when he meets the digital website, we have to get the things on time. If there is a delay, I think there will be a drop in subscription. The infra, what we are going to use, is very critical in ensuring that timely delivery of stories. Similar to that, other businesses do have. Directionally, the finance function is facing a skill set issue. We can't leave the people who have been with us for long, as well as we need to manage the new technology with systems and process in place. The one way to look at is to make sure that upskilling of the existing team in place, and as and when people move out of the system either through retirement or otherwise, bring in young minds into the system. Because the current young minds, as I see now in my team, are able to travel beyond the expectation. Because they are exposed to current systems in place, and they also get educated in a way that they have to meet the challenges in the job. So the one way we need to upskill this team in place, as well as to ensure that the delivery is through technology change. Both we have to balance. Upskilling comes through training and processes based on the business need and the functional requirement. With the regulatory change happening across, I think especially with GST around, which is happening every day, we are seeing changes in GST. And that too with income tax, we have seen a lot of changes happening in the last 6 to 8 months. I think that 194Q and 206AB, all those expected a process in place. So training is very critical for us. At the same time, technology also be seen. How much of the technology will help us to improve our productivity as well as ensuring compliance and I will say to some extent assertive process of doing things. Because today we can't delay any of the processes for which we need support of technology. What technology use to what extent, it depends upon, as I told you, based on the business need and the process need. I think from this point of view, a CFO is put into a critical phase. You need to decide on people, technology, and process. The finance function per se have to look into making sure things are happening. I think most of you know banking 20 years back was different, now it is different. I think none of us go to bank for getting withdrawal of cash. We do everything in a way what we want, use maximum payouts through digital process. That being the case, I also see the finance transforming into a level where it will be in the organization and the finance department has to be a value maker and value creator and value maker. How it happens? It is happening through a mix of change in people and using technology. It is something each of the leader has to work around and investment is required for the same. How the investment is made depends on the priorities we set in. Is a short-term, medium-term or long-term priority depending on the expected results out of the finance function. Normally there are core finance and we have multiple other compliances requirement and also treasury. Core finance need a detailed system process, whereas treasury and thing can be add-on systems which compliance can be done through an external service provider also. But how much investment is required, we have to be very conscious of the fact that most of these investments goes to improve our quality, and if you see return on investment per se is looked at how the quality is achieved. So in that perspective, I think the CFO story today, I have listed down various topics which are all very relevant to the current requirement, and I think all of us will get involved in the process of discussion and ensuring that we get something out of today's deliberation. As well, something we carry out here will be helpful to us to implement at our workplace. At the same time, as I mentioned now, the role of CFO is more critical from the point of ensuring business runs, because continuity of business is the key for any organization, and we being the torchbearer of all stakeholders' requirement. I think whether it is government, shareholders or investors, or financial institutions, or including our own team members and the employees, we make sure that as finance function and the leader of the finance function, There are timeliness in ensuring results and payouts is the key. So using technology and ensuring productivity, accuracy, quality, and finding from that a proper return, which may not be appropriate at all times, but on the long term, it will be a quality-oriented process. We need to ensure, as finance guys, that we adapt to the changes and deliver the requirement both at the business front and the functional front and at the organization front. With these few words, I would like to thank opportunity given to me to share my thoughts, and thanks the organizers and the sponsors for giving this opportunity. Thank you all.